We've arrived at the final of the blocks to love that the rabbis list, kavod. The word literally means honor, and it's actually talking about looking for honor from the outside. And it's the third aspect of the eating from that tree of distinguishing between what I like and what I don't like, judging things according to how I gain from them, changed the nature of our humanity and made it so much harder for us to experience love and be in it. And so I want to explore with you some of the honor seeking that we experience, because when the rabbis talk about kavod, they're not talking about a person having honor. They're talking about a person looking for honor, looking to make themselves seem greater in the eyes of others, looking in a haughty way to achieve the superiority over others. That's really what we're talking about when we're talking about the kind of kavod that gets in the way of love. Here we're talking about, I'm wanting to have an advantage over you. That's why I want it. I'm wanting to be superior. I'm wanting for you to show honor to me because I'm greater than you are. It's pretty simple. And that kind of orientation towards power, towards ruling over the other, towards having some kind of an abstracted superiority over the other, by walking around just with airs of superiority without actually having anything that's more than the other. That can definitely be an abstracted version of this, and indeed for many of us it is. I mean, there are all kinds of ways in which we accomplish this kind of a superiority, sometimes in the stupidest kinds of ways where you're actually not doing anything overt. You do it covertly, or the person wants to give you something and you say, nah, no thanks. Or the person, has heard from you what it is you'd like to eat, but then serves it to you in a discolorful, distasteful way. I mean, like, what's going on there? Well, it's a power struggle of who's really in charge, who's got more honor. Yeah, so like aggressive, passive aggressive, holding back on your emotions, going cold, right? Is in a way also oftentimes, not always, but oftentimes of sort of indicating your superiority. Well, if I'm not going to, be responsive to you, then I can be the one who is stronger than you. I mean, there's endless, unfortunately, the lists of ways in which we do it. I'm listening, but not really listening. I'm messing with my phone while you're talking to me, or I'm being super responsive in order to dig into you about how unresponsive you are when I'm talking to you. I mean, it's like so subtle, complicated, and so much around the intentions of what's going on that this, of all of the three, is the most subtle. And in fact, the Maharal, when he talks about this, he talks about how kin'ah has to do with, the jealousies have to do with our life energies, our trying to suck life away from another. Ta'ava, the lusting, has to do with our body energies of seeking pleasure and turning the other into an object for that. But this one, kavod, this has to do with our minds, because really, superiority and who's the more honored is completely a matter of the mind. I can be the strongest one in the pack, but there's, that clever guy who's actually running the show. So it looks like I'm the superior one, but there's someone who's actually operating me, using me as their instrument for, okay, you get the picture, how complicated this is and how much it has to do with the world of the intellect in a way that more than the others. All human activity has to do also, obviously, with our minds, ideas, and our beliefs. But if you want to make a sort of a neat delineation, so then this one definitely has the most of intellect, storytelling around it. So let's get back into a bit more of the nitty-gritty of this and how it stands in the way of love and how it is that we can extricate ourselves from the way that it blocks. So I want to tell you something of a mythic story of the rabbis, which is actually the root of one of the real painful results of eating from the tree. And I'll just tell you the story in brief and real summary of what the rabbis describe about the sun and the moon. With the sun and the moon, it says in the Torah that on the fourth day, God created these two great lights. But then immediately following it, it says he created the great light to rule over the day and the small light to rule over the evening and night. So the rabbis say, I think something happened here. At the beginning, they were both great, and now one is great and one is small. What happened? Big and small, really. So they tell a story of how at the beginning God really sought that the sun and the moon would have equal stature. They would both be melachim. They would both be kings wearing a single crown. But the moon, who is a recipient of light, said, I can't see how this is going to work, that there would be two kings with one crown. One must be the ruler. Okay, so God says, well, it looks like you're really going to be the one who needs to go through the greatest learning about this and become, in the end, the teacher for all of us, as we'll see, for all of my creation. So, therefore, you will become one who is ruled over, and you'll become the smaller in being the recipient. You see, it wasn't my original vision that to be a recipient would be smaller than the one who's giving, but rather that both of you would be melachim. But instead, now there's memshalah, right? There's ruling over rather than kingship. Before I explain to you what's going on there, I want to point out that the direct result of the eating from the tree is a curse, which is really a curse to both the man and the woman, but it's spoken to the woman, where God says to her, Hu yimshol bach. He is going to have dominion over you, rulership over you, not kingship, yimshol bach. So that's the second time that word appears in the Torah. The first is with the sun and the moon. The second with man and woman. Are they connected? Boy, are they ever. You see, male and female polarities have to do with giving and receiving. Male and female polarities have to do with the flow and the organization of life. Male and female polarities have to do with the envisioning and the realization, the seeding and the impregnation and birthing. I mean, there are many aspects to the male and female polarities which deserve to be explored. But the original vision was that those polarities would function as one crown, meaning in one whole in which both are melachim, not moshlim, kings and not rulers. And here's where you really begin to hear the difference. The word in Hebrew for king also shares the same root as taking advice from someone, lehi malech. Interesting. You don't usually think of a king that way. His subjects are his subjects. That's because you're used to kingship being a matter of dominion. But what if kingship is a matter of the full expression, integration, and organization of the entirety into one reality? That would look very different, wouldn't it? A moshel is the opposite of that. The very word moshel shares a root in Hebrew with what God says to Moshe when he says to him, Shal na'alecha me'araglecha, divest yourself of your shoes, or, take your shoes off, right? You're standing at a holy place. Shal means to take it off, right? To divest yourself. A moshel seeks to divest those over whom he rules of their powers, right? That's the painful thing about it. It's so the opposite. You see, the original vision was that giver and taker would be in such a profound mutuality that they would be existing together in a way in which each is actually giving and taking at once. I mean, think about it. If the sun shines and there's no recipient of that light, there's no visual cortex, there's no physical body to reflect that light back, there's no light. There's photons, there's energy, but there's no light. There's no such thing as light except by virtue of it being bounced off something or by being registered by a recipient. Well, that recipient is far lower than the light giver. Well, really, I mean, actually, there is no light giver without that recipient. Nor, on the other hand, is there a recipient unless there's being something given. I mean, what a sick way to look at reality, as if there's superior and inferior by virtue of that function. What a sick way to look at reality in general, to look at it that way as my individuation leading to my yearning for and seeking power and rule over the other, living in contest with the other to see who's going to be in charge. I mean, we all know how subtle these things are, right? And how complex it is to determine, am I smarter than you? Like, what does that even mean? I mean, there's so many different types of intelligences. It's perhaps true that in one I have a greater acumen than someone else, but I mean, that's just not the way life can be evaluated, right? So, but the deeper lesson is that there's something that's just so growthful and full of energy by virtue of the interaction. Look at what's going on here. I mean, I want to tell you, sitting here talking into a camera is not very much fun unless I have a sense of who's there on the other side of it. I must tell you, your comments, when you comment on those rare occasions, if I might point out, mean a lot to me, because right now, get a sense right now of how much more I'm talking to you right now by virtue of my reaching out to you, because suddenly I'm now focused on and attentive to the fact that you're out there. I oftentimes stop when I'm giving these classes across the screen here in order to just imagine who's listening to me. Imagine someone who I met, who I know is listening. Imagining someone who sent me a comment that touched my heart and I want to touch theirs back. Imagine myself really in touch with the one there because they're growing. And by their growing, especially when they feed back and say, what really touched me was this, or I have a question about that, or there's something which really made a difference in my life, and here's what I did with it. Oh my gosh, you have no idea how elating that is to me, how energizing that is, how much more wisdom comes down by virtue of that, because it was applied, birthed, it was brought into someone's life. And then when someone actually takes what I said farther and becomes someone who's actually giving back to me something that was filtered through the way they see life and the way they experience life. That's the energy we're looking for, isn't it? I mean, this is so much not the way we ought to be teaching. Believe me, I love the classroom. I love the interaction. I love listening to people talking back. If I'm performing my music, I mean, it's such a different thing when there are people in the room. I mean, it's not the same thing ever when you just do it in the studio, because there is an aliveness that is the nature of life, that is in a constant interconnection between these polarities in a way in which it's that space in between them, which is growing, expanding, energizing each of them in a way in which to talk about superior, inferior, to talk about, well, who's in charge here, is just not the way to view life, but nevertheless is what happened by virtue of eating from the tree of distinctions. And we can step away from it. We can really step away from it as we come to understand this better. Listen, when I'm talking, So, and your listening, your active listening, your responsive listening is so meaningful. When you're talking to me, I'm so much more alive if instead of playing with my cell phone or proving that I'm superior to you by having the next smartest thing to say after you finish talking, which I'm thinking about the whole time while you're talking, or whatever it is, right? All these kinds of ways in which couples mess up their relationships because of the seeking of kavod, because of the seeking of having more honor than the other, because of the seeking of being superior and in charge. Things just collapse. So for the purposes of a class like this, I mean, we really need seminars, my friends. We need seminars. We need to be able to be interacting with each other. And that's so alive in a class and a teaching like this, because these are practices which you really need to not just understand, but need to turn into ways of living, which means checking in with each other, which means getting support, which means understanding these subtleties even more. And so I yearn for us to be able to meet in that way. And with God's help, I'll find the right people to help me make that happen. But in the meantime, this is what I'm capable of giving you of in the frameworks that I have been able to manage myself. And I just want to say that like all of this really is such a profound teaching in the rabbis. And I want to close with the way they describe these three different things we've been talking about. You see, the wise person, they say, that's the person who loves knowledge. What do you mean? Doesn't the wise person have knowledge? No, being wise or not wise is not dependent on something exterior to you. It's completely a matter of your interiority. Oh, well, what about the hero? They say, what about the gibor? I mean, a gibor obviously is someone who is stronger than someone else. No. The gibor is not measured by virtue of his interaction with that which is other to him. The gibor is measured by the nature of his being, which that control that person has to direct and guide himself is really what indicates his being a gibor. Well, what about a mechubad? I mean, isn't an honored person someone who others honor? No way, the rabbis say. Ezehu mechubad, who's an honored person? A person who honors others. Wow, what is that? What is that? How did I become an honored person? By honoring others. No. You don't become an honored person by honoring others. In honoring others, you expose the fact that you are a source for honor, not a recipient of it. You're a source of it. You are a glow of honor. That's what it really means to be a mechubad, someone who has the weightiness, which that word also has that second meaning of, that you are fully real, alive to your worth and to your value. You're not looking to get that from others, the most insidious way being by ruling over them and removing from them their power or honor, right? To be meshiel, as a moshel, to remove from them their sense of worth so that you can lord yourself over them. No, I'm not there at all. I give you honor almost not as a conscious act, but rather because we share honor. We share a reality of goodness, of worth, of preciousness. And therefore, the proof text that the rabbis bring is insane. They say, how do we know this? Because the verse says, Ki mechabdai achabed uvozai yekalu. Unbelievable. Because those who honor me, I honor. Those who honor me, I honor? Wait a minute. Hamechabed et habriot. The one who's honorable, he's the one showing honor to other creatures. And then the verse is, the proof text is, because those who honor me, I honor. Well, how are you honoring God when you're honoring his creatures? Well, isn't that what you're doing? If that's where your consciousness is. And if your consciousness is there, then that means you have joined me as the source of honor. And you're honoring me by expanding and augmenting my presence, my realness. But those who show dishonor, bozai yekalu, they become lightened. You see how the verse is playing with heaviness and they become lightened. They become less precious. They become less weighty. And is that not so? When you look to the other for them to provide you with your weightiness, you have just proven how light you are, how, in a sense, inconsequential you consider yourself to be, that you need those others giving you the honor to make you worthwhile. But look how subtle it is. If I'm teaching and looking for you to respond and give me likes so that I'll feel worthwhile, that's sick. That's separating. That prevents us from love. But if I'm sharing and hoping and praying that you be excited by it because I look to share the wisdom in a way in which we both become ignited by it, we all together share in a wisdom which isn't something which I'm in possession of, but rather I'm a channel of, but we're all actually participating in together. Wow. But you see how different that is, and yet how subtle the delineation is. You really need to be a highly conscious human being in order to see when you're looking to be melech or moshel, when you're looking to join together in love, or seeking simply to gain a sense of value in the relationship you're in. So let's join together in a meditation which will be focused on augmenting our sense of preciousness. And let's take on a practice, even though we're not yet in a course and in a seminar. Let's take on a practice after you've listened to this class for every day to do something to another human being that shows them honor. Yeah, it might just be smiling in their direction. It might be saying thank you in a really kind way. It might be accepting from them a gift in a gracious way which lets them know how much you appreciate them. It might be in giving them a gift, but not as a way of indicating that you're superior in being able to give them that gift and emphasizing their neediness, but rather by emphasizing your love and your desire to see life augmented and their life better as an act of love. Let's do that and check in. And send me some comments on how that works, where that goes, so that we'll be able to grow together, sun and moon, moon and sun, all of us together in the same single crown of love. Join me for the meditation as we enhance that awareness and learn how to turn it towards others. In this meditation, we're going to get in touch with the simple kavod. Kavod means honor, reverence. We are going to experience it from within and beam it outwards to all. Take a few moments now to appreciate your koved, your weight, right here. Feeling the gravitational pull of your body down to this place. Feel your feet resting comfortably on the ground. Your body resting comfortably on the chair. Let your shoulders relax and your arms find a comfortable place alongside your body or on your thighs. When you feel comfortable to close your eyes and begin to enter your inner space. Take a nice deep breath. Sense your stomach expand. Feel the calm, the warmth. Slowly exhale. Take another deep breath in, sensing as you breathe in the preciousness that is yours in being here now. The simple honorableness of life itself. Feel your heart, the life force there. Sense the reverence, the honorableness of life in its simplicity of being. Just feel, appreciate. Stay with your breath as your body instinctively knows to breathe in and to breathe out. Honor the chair you're sitting on by simply placing your attention towards it and appreciating its presence and its fulfillment of its task. Sense how it supports you, almost actively pressing up against you so that you not fall. Feel honor towards the floor, the ground upon which you sit, appreciating its fulfillment of its task, supporting you here now. Sense the air coming in and out of your nostrils, the presence of this life-giving force, simply there to be breathed in and out in the service of life. Appreciate, feel reverence towards it. Its kavod is immanent in its very being. And now I invite you to bring up the image of someone towards whom you feel reverence, someone who you sense the value of in a natural way. Sense their worth, their preciousness. Awaken the love, the honor, the reverence towards them, the appreciation which automatically accompanies the glow of their being worthy in the simplest, most direct way. And now, turn your face slightly upwards to receive the divine light, so often referred to in the Torah as kavod, kavod ha-Shekhinah. Sense how that light beams down towards you with love and care. Feel yourself filling with its warm, appreciative compassion. Fill yourself with its goodness, its light. Know how deeply honored you are. Just feel the love beam towards you with the very fact of your presence. And now again with that, notice the chair. Share with it a sense of the fullness of honor being here. Feel the floor. Share with it fullness of the presence of the honor as a creature of the one who is forever exuding honor, reverence, and care for his creatures. Feel yourself exuding the honor and glory of the one who is himself always exuding honor and glory towards his creatures. His care, his love. Let that flow through you as you now again bring up the image of the person towards whom you feel reverence. Experience that as a shared kavod. Reverence you're sharing now, not just awarding him. Sensing how the two of you and the chair and the floor all deeply share this presence of honor in the divine realm of kavod. And now turn back towards yourself, feeling your heart again, sensing your breath, realizing your indelible worth as an expression of the one who is kavod, the one who is precious, filled with honor and reverence for life, exuding it always. And receive that power to do that yourself towards others. When you feel ready, move your body slightly. Accept upon yourself this new mission. Then open your eyes with love, care, and honor towards all that which surrounds you.